talking nonsense.
So I didn't really have a lesson plan, but then I heard something on NPR today. Listen, NPR is my favorite thing. When did that happen? When did I become like an adult man of a certain age instead of listening to K-Rock or 98.7? Isn't that like, right? I'm instead listening to KCRW. But I thought this was interesting because, are we rolling? Yeah. Okay, so I'm not familiar with this program, but I was in the car today at this time, and Frances Anderton, who's the host of this show called DNA, which is about fashion and architecture and stuff like that, she was interviewing Frederick Chang, who is a filmmaker, a documentarian who just did this movie called Dior and I, which is I don't know, I haven't seen it yet. Some people are nodding their heads. So it basically is following. I don't know a lot about fashion, as you cannot tell. But Raph Simmons arrived as the creative director of the House of Christian Dior, and he took over the design work for that house. And so it was a documentary about, they had 8 weeks to put up the new, fall collection or whatever collection it was. And it was really interesting what this guy said, so this filmmaker. So the filmmaker was asked about when this new creative director came in, whether there was tension with how the people who worked in the atelier, which is, the workers, the people who are working in the workshop, really doing the blood and guts of designing or putting the design into application. Cutting the dress, making the dress, these pieces of art, right? And so the interviewer asked him, well, what do you think, he asked them, what do you think of the new designer coming in? And he said that most of them didn't know who the designer even was. And then he goes on to say this, he says, they're not following fashion in that way. They're doing the work and are knowledgeable about what the craft is, but they don't follow the celebrities of fashion and who is who and who does what. And he says it's an interesting comparison to this image of celebrity culture that we live in. So here he was thinking that all the people who worked at Dior are so caught up in being on the fashion blogs and finding out what's trending, and they're not. What they're interested in is what? The work. Which to me was so inspiring. And then I read this interview again with Matthew Weiner from, because it's the end of the days of Mad Men, whether you watch that show or not. And what's something that I have been teaching for the longest time is compare and despairism will annihilate you. And again, when we become obsessed with watching, reading magazines or going to those blogs or those, websites where you start to compare yourself to the illusion of what you think success in a career in the arts looks like, you're doomed to fail. And Matthew Weiner talks about this because I'm always saying you're comparing your dress rehearsal to everybody else's opening night. He says it another way. So you're watching whatever this finished product is, whether it's the TV show or the movie or hearing actors talk, but most of the stuff that deals with their struggle, the challenges, the obstacles, how long it takes, things that they had to overcome, has been edited out. So all you see is, oh my God, they're so amazing. They are perfect, therefore, ergo, I suck. Because in the minutia of my daily life, I am on the ground, crawling and scratching and trying to get people to just return a phone call. And then you watch a movie and everything is roses, right? So, right, that's really, if you do not have a strong sense of self or community or people giving you a can of whoop-ass, helping you understand that that is not reality, you're doomed. And then he goes on to talk about how one of the saddest things he discovered about being in Hollywood, he's been here for many, many years before Mad Men took off, is he says that he hears people say, yeah, I'm just going to give it a couple of years. Whether that's writers or actors, creatives of any type. And I'm always saying, you guys, it's not an actor's process, an artist's process is not time contingent. Because you come into your own as an artist when you come in to your own. And that, it can't be compared to somebody who has success at 17, and maybe you're just starting your career at 17. But weirdly, we use these measuring sticks to gauge our own self-worth, which is interesting because there is so much data and research and science, social science, that shows that comparing ourselves to others absolutely has an effect on our self-esteem. Not only just from at many levels, like a success comparison, an appearance comparison, a body dysmorphic comparison. So it can be really destructive to where you are in your own journey if you're constantly going to try to get the latest trend in who's the most popular actor. You guys, it's always changing. Anyway, who cares? Somebody who is #1 on IMDb today is like 1,000 tomorrow. And I think it doesn't matter, really. So if you're like constantly obsessed with that stuff, it's a zero-sum game. And he goes on to say that the greatest regret I have, this is Matthew Weiner saying this, the greatest regret that I have is that early in my career, I showed myself such cruelty for not having accomplished anything significant. Oh my God, I'm totally going to start to cry. I spent so much time trying to write, but was paralyzed by how behind I felt. You guys, you can't be cruel to yourselves in comparison to other people. You just can't. It's all an illusion. And you know, the most honest actors that I know about are really honest about the struggle of it all. And that the struggle never ends. It's all relative. And you heard me talk, I don't need to go on and on about that. I mean, I guess I do, because I had lunch with a big casting director today that I'd never met before, and it was really amazing because just something that I'm experiencing in my own life professionally, what I'm trying to make happen, and hearing him at a different level. I mean, and this is like a much huger project with a much huger budget, and hearing literally the same exact stories and obstacles and challenges he's facing at that level that I'm facing relative to what I'm trying to overcome. So it never ends. It's just you get to a new level and it's the same sort of challenge with a new window dressing. And then you maybe overcome that and then it's something different. So welcome to being an artist. Is that really depressing? It might be a little bit. It will be depressing if, this will be the last thing, if you don't realize that you have everything you need and you have your own guidance system to help reset you when you move into that compare and despair syndrome.
Hush, you're talking up.